Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV Rogue. My name is John. This is an extra channel of the ARTV family. There's been some confusion around that, but I post a bunch of random stuff here, including my quickie unscripted reviews, stuff that doesn't quite make it over to the main channel, and today I'm reviewing the latest album by Manchester Orchestra, an alternative rock band formed as a solo project by Andy Hall in the early 2000s. This is their latest LP, The Million Masks of God. What an intriguing album title. It's something that immediately drew my attention. I wasn't exactly on the front lines clamoring for new Manchester Orchestra because you see, I'm one of those fans that was super into their earlier stuff. Not just like I'm Like a Virgin, but also Mean Everything to Nothing and then Simple Math. Cope, while I enjoyed it at the time, I quickly fell out of love with that album, and ironically, it's the only record of theirs I owned on vinyl for a very long time, until I got my hands on this one. Not only is the vinyl pressing I got from my local record store absolutely gorgeous, the record itself is intrinsically connected to a lot of unique details that I feel bring out the best elements of Manchester Orchestra, of what they do well as a band. I kinda didn't listen to their last album very much at all. I don't know why. I just went through this period where I kind of fell out of love with the band, and I admittedly didn't give it that much of a chance. I just didn't review it on the channel. A black mile to the surface now in retrospect. A solid album, but a little bit more on the Americana, wide open spaces meets Manchester type of feel. It was a reset button for them, as Andy himself stated, and now at A Million Masks of God, I think they have found their footing in a major way. This record is striking. The instrumentation, the storytelling, the connection between the songs, it's all very fascinating. And from the second I hit play and heard that opening track inaudible, I was hooked. Let's talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the writing on this album, because it definitely can appear fictional at first, but I think a lot of this was inspired by real life scenarios and events. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the other band member, his brother-in-law Robert, whose father passed away due to dementia, an ongoing battle with that, the complications thereof, and now they have an album that's kind of inspired by these kind of haunting events. It feels like memories are being frayed, and you touch on the nerves, and the neurons start to fire, and these old memories come back to life, almost as a haunting vision. This is very apparent on tracks like Telepath. If you watch the music video, have a box of tissues on hand because that one snuck up on me. In all honesty, it's not just that song that pulls out such an emotional response. It's not always sadness, but you might feel that fear and that anxiety, the tension, and also the wrestling with faith, not knowing exactly how you feel, but at the end of the day, just kind of easing the listener down as they put it themselves. They have all of these things that they want to talk about. The human existence in 45 minutes. That's a very complex and bold idea, but the crescendos that they hit throughout, Manchester Orchestra have always been fantastic at building up their songs. I knew that from the second that I heard I've Got Friends. That's the one that hooked me in 2009, and here I am in 2021 talking about how well they did it on some of these cuts like Keel Timing and Bedhead. Bedhead was the lead single from this album, and I felt rather fascinated by it. It reminds me a lot of Silver Sun Pickups. I got that even more with Keel Timing. Those two are definitely attached to the hip in a way. One is the prequel, the next is the later in life stage. I appreciate the bass detailing, the guitars on this track, Andy Hull's vocals. In fact, I've been seeing Andy popping up a lot this year. He was featured on the Tiger's Jaw album recently, and I thought he fit in nicely. It actually inspired me between that and Bedhead to actually give this record a chance, and on release day, I heard it, and then I drove to the record store and bought it. Admittedly, the album does stall out ever so slightly in the sense that the back half features a lot of slower songs, and they can take a bit of getting used to. I don't think that they always fit every mood, nor are they meant to. It can mess with the flow of the project a bit, especially when you stuff something as epic as Dinosaur in the middle of all that at track 8, and then it's followed by and preceded by a few slower songs. I think Telepath, though, once you hit that one lyrically, it's going to strike a nerve. The same goes for the closing moment, The Internet, which does build a lot, and it talks about how connected yet disconnected we are. It might sound like a very predictable subject for a band to write about, but the way they approached it, it actually works out quite nicely. Twinkling Keys greet the ear on one of the album's best cuts, Annie. I think this proves how versatile this album can be, and I do fear that it's going to go a bit unnoticed, maybe underappreciated, so definitely give that one a listen. I think the biggest standout for me on the entire project, though, was Angel of Death, coming out of Inaudible, which really hooked me. I appreciate how open it felt. It almost reminded me a bit of Mumford & Sons, and then we go into something that is a bit more stereotypical of their influences, not in a bad way, but I've always heard Band of Horses at least a little bit in some of the ways that they write songs and build them up. Angel of Death has all of that, meets Manchester Orchestra, meets alternative rock, 90s, Silver Sun pickups. There's a little bit of everything in just under 6 minutes. I'm fascinated by this song, and I would be truly surprised if it doesn't make my list for the best of the year. Manchester Orchestra have put out some really solid, if not great, albums in their discography, and this is one that won me back over to giving them another chance. It's okay to burn out on an artist or a band for a while, but it's also okay to go back and say, it's time to give them another shot, see what they're up to, it might surprise you, and The Million Masks of God did just that. This album is getting a 4.5 out of 5. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by to check out my quick, unscripted thoughts on the new Manchester Orchestra album. If you've heard it, then let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see me talk more about this band, then tap this card here, or tap here for another recent Quickie review. All of my socials are in the description down below, and I'll be back soon for more on ARTV Rogue.